Grading practices can be a tough topic to talk about with teachers. So, what happened when I read the book Grading for Equity by Feldman with my master's students? Here were three benefits that they noted. Here are three benefits my students noted. First of all, personal growth. Many mentioned having not thought about grading during their pre-service program or not enough about grading, and they really never thought about equity in their own grading practices since then. So this book was definitely pushing their own thinking about their own practice and then impacting, of course, their teacher support materials, student support materials, and rubrics. Many reported it shaping their instructional style. Those that had been using a lot of multiple choice type of tests opted to try out some project-based learning, so it affected their teaching practices. And even I would think if there were some students who did not read the actual reading, but just commented and gave dialogue on the questions were wonderful in providing great dialogue. And even if you didn't always agree with Feldman, I think anyone who goes through this study would say that it pushes their own thinking and practice. So that's, first of all, personal growth. Second, the second benefit was educational leadership, or strengthening educational leadership. One commonality we all have as teachers is that we all grade. But how often do we talk about grading? Oftentimes not enough. And so the teachers created professional learning communities to talk about grading practices and this text Grading for Equity with their peers. Also, as they designed a summative assessment together, oftentimes a project-based learning assignment. And some mentioned that they were leading PLCs for the first time ever. And so that's wonderful that this experience gave them the opportunity to do that. Some formed cross-curricular teams, so across the curriculum or even across school sites. I even had one working at an international school and trying these practices out in a different country. And I had another student, and actually a couple, who were leading staff professional developments in their district, talking about grading for equity. And they mentioned that this book was very helpful. In fact, they were using this book study to talk about their own learning practices, and they were leading these learning practices as professional development leaders. And then I thought this was also an insightful thought. One student mentioned it was laying a foundation for future collaboration. So after the study, they felt closer to the partners that they had gone through with. Maybe they had mentioned that they had never worked with some of these folks before in this kind of way, and it was kind of like an icebreaker for future different collaboration opportunities. So that's a second benefit from the study. Third benefit from the study was teachers reported being able to support their students better, which was the main reason why we're doing this study to begin with. First, when you think about grading and rubrics, it helped make expectations more clear for students. Teachers shared how they began to use formative assessments, summative assessments, and rubrics to help their students succeed and think in their mind, like, how can we use assessments to help students succeed? This also, because it was clear the expectations, rubrics, and so forth, it gave students then the opportunity to better self-evaluate and peer evaluate one another and support each other in this process, identifying misconceptions and then being able to problem solve. And then finally, some teachers mentioned like trying making some changes actually mid-year. They didn't even wait till the end of the year, but they wanted to make the changes immediately. And so they even mentioned being vulnerable with their students and saying to their students, hey, I'm going to be trying something new and co-construct this rubric with you. So they mentioned a benefit there as well. So I'm glad I chose this book for this course. And I definitely think teachers that want to push their thinking and practice around grading, I would recommend a book like this, Grading for Equity by Joe Feldman.